Hi everyone. So this is a review session on your gastrointestinal physiology for your fourth shifting exams in physiology. So I'm making this review session. Unfortunately, I am unable to make a full-fledged organized discussion on the main points ng GI 1, 2, and 3. What I did was I took some past questions on these topics and then rationalized them and then expounded on the peripheral concepts. And I think this will help you din. Kasi you will better understand the relevance of a topic once you know how it is asked. Di ba? Mas naiintindihan natin kung para saan ba to, ano ba ibig sabihin nito. Pag nakita natin, ganito pala siya tinatanong, ganito pala siya dapat i-apply and i-synthesize and ma-integrate and gamitin. Di ba? So, what I would like you to do is, before we dive into the rationalization for each question, please pause the video and try to answer it for yourself, di ba? As a form of your active recall and retrieval practice. Diba? So, and then afterward, so watch the explanation and then try to understand why the correct answer is correct and why the incorrect options are incorrect and how you can change the question so that the incorrect answers may be correct the next time. So this is how you analyze multiple choice questions. Okay? So your GI physiology is divided into three. So that's GI1, that's for the motility, GI2, the secretions, and the GI3 for your digestion and absorption. So this organization is for your LeapMed physiology organization ni Guyton. When you reach medicine proper, the organization would be quite different. So the organization there would be, for example, in the stomach. So that's one module, the stomach, and then you would describe all. So motility, secretions, and digestion absorption. There's a module on the small intestine, all the motility, secretions, and digestion and absorption. So I think this is an advantage for you so that you can integrate the two ways of thinking about gastrointestinal physiology. But I think this is the better one. This is the more organized one, diba? You can understand, for example, in GI1, paano ba gumagalaw yung entire GI tract from the stomach up to the colon? Diba? Ano yung mga secretions? Ano yung difference ng secretions ng stomach, saliva, pancreas, the liver? Diba? So, ayun. So, this is how we organize it. And then, for the very first module, that's your GI1, so we're going to talk about motility. So, how your food is propelled and mixed throughout your gastrointestinal tract. So the very first question, spike potentials in the intestines are inhibited by A, chorinomimetics, B, acetylcholine, C, stretch, or D, stress. Okay, so we have to recall saan ba nanggagaling itong mga potentials na to, either spike potentials or action potentials. What creates them? What are they? So, of course, if you recall from your very first lesson in physiology, di ba, you always have a negatively charged membrane potential in the inside compared to the outside. And that's because of your leaky potassium channels and your sodium-potassium ATPase. So, there's a potential difference. Okay. And then, kapag nagkaroon tayo ng depolarization, of course, there's now a change in the membrane potential. Positive ions go in, and that would cause activity, whether in your neuron or in your muscle, contraction ba or action potentials. So in this case, di ba, in the small intestine or in the GI tract, there is the production of what we call your basal electrical rhythm or your slow waves. These basal electrical rhythm or your slow waves, hindi sila nakakapag-produce ng contraction. Okay? Hindi sila action potential, hindi sila nakakapag-produce ng contraction. They are spontaneously produced by the pacemaker cells in your GI tract and you call them your interstitial cells of Cajal. We don't really know how it does it, bakit nagkakaroon ng mga ganitong slow wave potentials, but it's very important since yung frequency ng mga slow waves na to determine the maximum contraction rate din ng iyong GI tract. For example, these slow waves, okay, pag nagkaroon ka ng slow wave, okay, syempre there's undulating membrane potential, palapit ng palapit yan sa threshold potential. So it makes it have a higher probability of contracting the more slow waves you have. Diba? For example, in the stomach, I think you have 3, in the duodenum you have 12, and in the terminal ileum you have 8 to 9. Diba? I'm not sure it's the exact values, but parang ganun. So, the more slow waves you have, okay, the higher the probability of initiating a spike potential and then a higher probability of having a contraction. Yung slow waves mismo, hindi sila nagpo-produce ng contraction. It's your spikes, but they increase the probability of having these spikes. Okay, so, paano ngayon nagiging spike potential or paano nagkakaroon ng contraction ngayon based dun sa stimulus natin? So we have slow waves, di ba? Meron tayong slow waves. Magkakaroon tayo ng spike potential or na contraction kapag yung slow waves na yun nagkaroon ng extra stimuli which are, number one, here, stretch, may pagkain. Acetylcholine, di ba? Your neurotransmitter of your parasympathetic nervous system and kaya nga nakalagay dito, your parasympathetics, di ba? Rest and digest tayo sa parasympathetic. So, syempre, kung kumakain tayo, na-activate yung parasympathetic nervous system, you would indeed need to propel the food. So, you need these contractions and spike potentials. Eh, paano naman kapag yung opposite, yung kalaban niya, which is yung sympathetic nervous system, your norepinephrine sympathetics and stress response, di ba? Of course, you don't need to rest and digest, di ba? You need to fight or flight. So what happens is baliktad naman. Instead na lumapit siya sa threshold potential to fire, nagkakaroon tayo ng hyperpolarization or mas mababa, more negative, mas malayo sa threshold potential, meaning it's a lower probability of producing contractions. Okay? So for this question, the answer is letter D, stress. These one, cholinergic, acetylcholine, and stretch all pertain to having food in your GI tract, all pertain to your parasympathetic, and these will increase your spike potentials. Okay? So stress would inhibit your spike potentials by hyperpolarization. Okay? Next. Which of the following is a correct statement regarding innervation of the GI tract? So your GI tract has its own innervation, di ba? Your enteric nervous system. But it can still be modulated by your central nervous system and your autonomic nervous system, your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Di ba? So, one part of your enteric nervous system is your Meissner's plexus and the other one is the myenteric plexus. The way you remember this is your Meissner's plexus, di ba? Maraming S. S for secretions. Secretions ng glands and also it influences local blood flow. So, basta mga secretions, mga fluid, yan, blood flow, it's all about your Meissner's plexus control. While your myenteric plexus, also called your Auerbach's plexus, myen, di ba? Myo, muscle. So it's one that regulates your muscle contraction of your smooth muscles in your GI tract. Okay? So, sabi dito, Meissner's plexus regulates tonic contraction. No, that's a product of your myenteric plexus. Meanwhile, your local blood flow is a product of your Meissner's plexus. So, baliktad yung A and B. For letter C, your Auerbach's plexus is purely excitatory in function. This is also incorrect. Isipin nyo, kung purely excitatory, purely nagko-contract lang yung buong GI tract natin. Kung purely nagko-contract lang yun, edi hindi rin makakapropel yung food. Di ba? What you really need, okay, what you really need is alternating contractions and relaxation. Contract mo yung, kunwari, ito yung food, contract mo yung harapan niya, and then relax yung distal to it para makamove siya. Di ba? So, your Auerbach's plexus has both excitatory and inhibitory functions. Okay? And that would allow food to be propelled. Okay? And letter D is the correct answer here. Its function can be modified by input from the CNS. So, kita natin dito, di ba? This is your enteric nervous system, your myenteric, and your submucosal or Meissner's plexus. Kasi di ba, you have four layers. You have your mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, and serosa or adventitia. Your Meissner's plexus is located in your submucosal layer. Your myenteric plexus is located in your, of course, muscularis layer in between your inner circular and outer longitudinal layers. Your myenteric plexus again for your muscle contraction, submucosal or Meissner's plexus for your secretions and your local blood flow. So as we can see here, you can still regulate the activity of your enteric nervous system via sympathetic, probably inhibitory to them, and parasympathetic, which are stimulatory to them, kasi you want to rest and digest. Sabi dito, it's postganglionic kasi syempre, if you recall, di ba, the sympathetic nervous system has a short preganglionic and longer postganglionic. Okay? So yung mga fibers na papunta dito, yun ay mga postganglionic fibers. Pero sa parasympathetic, they are preganglionic kasi nga they have a long preganglionic. And their postganglionic fibers are near na to the target organ, which is this one. So they are preganglionic pa lang. Ito yung mga postganglionic natin. Okay? And so we also see here what you call your sensory neurons, which of course sends signals or sensations and similar to how we feel our somatic sensations, di ba? We also feel visceral sensations. So, sila din nag-cause ng action potentials, sensory action potentials, so that we can feel kung meron bang stretching or meron bang chemical irritant sa ating GI tract. Okay? So, this one, the correct answer is letter D. Its function can be modified by input from the CNS. Okay? Next. Which of the following abolishes the receptive relaxation of the stomach? So, we have to understand first yung concept ng receptive relaxation, adaptive relaxation, gastric accommodation. And I think this one is a very good diagram. So on the left, we have your receptive relaxation. And your receptive relaxation causes in a reflex relaxation of your stomach muscles so that it can expand. Okay? So, syempre, para siyang ina-anticipate niya yung pagdating ng food. So, magre-relax siya para it can accommodate the food. Okay? So, receptive relaxation, ang stimulus niyan, chewing pa lang and swallowing of the bolus. Wala pa yung pagkain sa stomach, nag-relax na yung gastric fundus or this part of the stomach. So, nag-relax na yung muscles mo dyan to accommodate the food. Diba? So, nagkaroon ka ng reservoir ngayon. When it comes to gastric accommodation, or also called your adaptive relaxation, kaya nga siya adaptive, nag-adapt na siya dun sa parating na food na dumating na ng stomach. Okay? So, kita niyo yung difference. Dito sa receptive relaxation, kumain ka pa lang, wala pa sa stomach mo, pero nag-relax na kagad siya. Okay? For your adaptive relaxation, nag-adapt siya kasi dumating na yung food sa stomach mo, na-accommodate na niya. This is gastric accommodation as well. Okay? Kaya nag-relax na yung stomach muscles, your fundus to accommodate the food. Okay? And this is your adaptive relaxation. And so, kita natin dito yung different stimuli for inhibiting the neurons supplying your stomach para makapag-relax yung stomach. So, kapag chewing and swallowing, that's your receptive relaxation. Entry of food into the stomach, that's your adaptive relaxation. And you also have here, kapag may food sa intestine, i-relax na muna yung stomach kasi may food na nga sa intestine eh. Hindi pa niya kayang i-accommodate yun. So, wag muna mag-contract yung stomach, relax muna to accommodate more food. Okay? Ang tawag naman doon is feedback relaxation. But I think for your level, ang important dito is yung receptive relaxation in your gastric accommodation or your adaptive relaxation. Okay? And this is controlled actually by your vagal afferents and efferents. This is a vagovagal reflex. Okay? So your vagus nerve controls your sensory information. Parating na yung food. May food na sa stomach. So that's a vagus afferent. And then, siya rin yung magpo-produce ng signals, your vagus nerve, ito, vagal efferents, to inhibit the motor neurons to be able to relax your stomach para makapag-produce ng extra space so that food can come in. Okay, so it's your vagus nerve that is responsible for your receptive relaxation. Okay? Sige. Gastric emptying is delayed with intake of non-fatty food, alkaline food, isotonic fluids, and amino acid-rich food. Okay. So, there are some factors that limit gastric emptying. Siyempre, ayaw naman natin or ayaw ng intestine na pasok lang tayo ng pasok ng food sa intestine from the stomach. Hindi pa nga tapos mag-digest yung intestine. Siyempre, there must be some factors that would regulate yung ability of the stomach to empty its contents into the intestine. And so, these are what is found in your book, your Guyton, distension of the duodenum or irritation. Siyempre, kung may food na doon, tapos kung may chemicals pa, siyempre, wag muna tayo maglabas ng food from the stomach to the intestine. Tapusin muna natin mag-digest. Similar thing, sobrang acidic, siyempre ayaw natin noon. Stop muna. Di ba? Kasi yung stomach may gastric acid eh. So kung acidic na yung kain mo sa intestine, stop muna, wag muna. Chill lang yung stomach. Huwag ka muna maglabas ng food. Patapusin mo muna mag-digest or ibalik sa normal pH yung contents ng intestine. Kapag sobrang osmolar naman, syempre, we don't want to be hyperosmotic or hypoosmotic. This would have a very bad effect sa ating bloodstream. Diba? Kung hypertonic, the red blood cells will shrink. Kung hypotonic, the red blood cells will swell. Diba? It could cause electrolyte imbalances. So, syempre, stop muna. Huwag muna mag-release ng food into the intestine from the stomach. Also, some digestive products, syempre, fats and proteins. Kung may laman muna, okay, inhibit muna natin yung gastric emptying. So, you call this your enterogastric kasi entero, the cause is your intestinal distension and the effect is in your gastric. So, inhibitory. So, stop muna. Wag muna mag-gastric emptying. So, non-fatty food, syempre, hindi madedelay yan. Non-fatty nga eh. Alkaline food, hindi. Kasi nga, pag acidic, saka lang siya madedelay. And isotonic, wala rin problema yan. Kapag lang hyperosmotic, saka lang tayo magkakaroon ng delay sa gastric emptying. Ayan, amino acid-rich food, protein-rich food. Pag mayroong protein-rich food tayo, syempre, kailangan i-digest muna. That would delay our gastric emptying via your enterogastric reflex. Okay? Sige. Next, we have a 24-year-old male graduate student participating in a clinical research study on intestinal motility, peristalsis of the small intestine. A, mixes the food bolus. Hindi, di ba? Peristalsis is a propulsion movement. It's your segmentation that mixes the food bolus. It's coordinated by the central nervous system. Not really, di ba? Primarily, it's your parasympathetic and your enteric nervous system. It can just modulate it, but not really coordinate, di ba? Involves contraction of circular smooth muscle behind and in front of the food bolus. Ayan na. Ito na yun. Involves contraction of circular smooth muscle behind the food bolus and relaxation of circular smooth muscle in front of the bolus. So ito, contraction behind and in front. Ito, contraction behind and relaxation in front. And then letter E, relaxation throughout the small intestine. So I think very obvious na mali ito. Siyempre, kapag nirelax mo lang yung buong GI tract mo, nothing will be propelled. Diba? So you have some sort of contraction or relaxation combination dapat. And that is indeed what is happening in peristalsis. Kapag puro contraction ka lang, edi, kapag, isipin nyo, contracted lang yung buong GI tract, edi wala rin mapapropel. What you really need is to contract proximal to the food. Ayan, no? To push the food. And then to relax what is distal to the food. Pag nirelax mo to, ayan, no? Nirelax mo, edi makakadaloy siya. Di ba? Kaya, no? Contract mo proximally, relax distally, so it can move. And that's what happens in peristalsis. Kapag naman segmentation, you contract it both proximally and distally kasi ang purpose mo sa segmentation is to mix. Okay? Your purpose here is to mix. Ayan, nagkaroon tayo ng mixing because of, para siyang ginawa mo siyang mga sausages. Di ba? Pag kinontract mo yung proximal and distal to the food, syempre, mag-mix yan. Hindi yan magpropel, mag-mix sila with each other for enhancing digestion. Okay? And so peristalsis, not segmentation, involves contraction behind the food bolus or proximal to the food bolus and relaxation in front of the food bolus so it can move. Okay? So that's peristalsis. Next, after taking a cup of hot coffee, Pedro feels like defecating. The scenario, actually, this is a favorite example of Doc King. This is an example of your reflex, your gastrocolic reflexes. Marami ba tayong reflexes, di ba? Orthocolic reflex. Pagising natin sa umaga, pagtayo, di ba, we feel like defecating. Ortho, pagtayo, colic reflex. So yung large intestine propels it to the rectum for defecation. Similar thing. Uminom lang ako ng hot coffee. Di ba? Bakit parang gusto ko na mag-defecate? And it's because of your stomach, colic, large intestine reflex. So here are some reflexes that we have in gastrocolic, nagkaroon ng food sa stomach, causing increase in your HAPCs or your high amplitude propagating contractions, which I think you know causes your mass movement. Di ba? Kung peristalsis is small intestine, you have your mass movements in the large intestine. So, syempre, kapag nagkaroon ka daw ng food sa stomach, gastro, cause, colic, so large intestine sa colon, yan yung, ang effect nun is increase in the high amplitude propagating contractions, increasing mass movement, causing you to feel like defecating. You also have your gastroileal reflex, di ba? To relax your ileocecal valve. Di ba, syempre, pag may food na sa stomach, syempre, gusto mo, yung mga contents ng ileum mapunta na sa colon para may space na ulit for digestion. Okay, so just review these different types of reflexes. Yung first term dun sa reflex is the cause. The second term in the reflex is the effect. So that's how you understand all these reflexes. Enterogastric, di ba? Colonogastric, gastrocolic, di ba? So you have to differentiate these different reflexes. And you know, sobrang dami nating reflexes because these are all controlled by your vagal afferents and efferents. Okay, so is vagus nerve, malayo yung nata-travel niyan. Meron siyang sensory fibers, meron siyang motor fibers. So, kaya niya i-control yung lahat yan. Okay, itong mga reflexes na to. Okay? Okay, so that's for your GI1 motility. We move on to GI2, your secretions, which I think is the hardest module out of the three. And so we'll take some questions and analyze them. True regarding the control of gastric secretion. So is it A, secretin stimulates it? B, gastric secretion does not begin until food enters the stomach? Is it C, most of the secretion occurs during intestinal phase? Or D, gastric acid is secreted by oxyntic glands in response to hormonal stimulation? So review muna natin yung how your gastric acid is actually secreted. So you have your gastric acid is, or your hydrochloric acid is secreted in your parietal cell. Okay? Now your parietal cells are cells in your gastric pits or your foveola. And what I want you to take away from this figure is first, start by analyzing this figure, begin with the end in mind. Ang goal natin is to produce hydrochloric acid. Yan ang goal natin, di ba? To produce acid or hydrochloric acid. So what do we need? Ano yung components? We need hydrogen ions and chloride ions. Di ba? So, alam na natin, ang goal natin is to have hydrogen and chloride ions. Where do we get the hydrogen? Where do we get the chloride? Dito yan. So of course, you have carbon dioxide from the metabolism. Di ba? Carbon dioxide is byproduct of metabolism. And there's of course water inside your parietal cell. When they combine using the enzyme carbonic anhydrase, okay, you produce carbonic acid, H2CO3, which dissociates, syempre acid yan, sa proton donor. Ayun na, nakuha na natin yung proton natin, yung H+, na isi-secrete natin. O yan na, okay na yung H, di ba? So, by the action of carbonic anhydrase combining the metabolic byproduct carbon dioxide and water, you form carbonic acid, which is a proton donor. Now you have a proton for your gastric acid secretion. And of course, yung kabilang side nung carbonic acid, which is bicarbonate, is reabsorbed. Okay? That's the reason why the blood going through your stomach during acid secretion or during eating is alkaline. You call that your alkaline tide because of the reabsorption of your bicarbonate in exchange for the secretion of your acid in your gastric lumen. By the way, orient ko kayo, this is the gastric lumen. So dito na yung loob ng stomach and ito yung blood side sa kabila. Okay? So here we secreted your hydrogen. So may hydrogen na tayo. How about the chloride? Saan ang galing yun? Well, remember, di ba, kanina, nireabsorb natin si bicarbonate. To maintain electron neutrality, we always want to maintain electron neutrality. Kapag naglabas tayo ng negative, dapat magpasok tayo ng negative. Same thing here. Naglabas tayo ng negative bicarbonate, syempre, we need to, kailangan natin magpasok ng negative din to maintain equal negative charges, equal positive charges, electron neutrality. Ang kapartner ni bicarbonate, pag reabsorb niya sa blood, is papasok naman si chloride. Ayan na, may chloride na tayo. That's the other part of your hydrochloric acid. Okay? And okay, to maintain electron neutrality naman dun sa secretion ng hydrogen ion kanina, naglabas tayo ng positive, kailangan magpasok kayo ng positive. And sa stomach, ang kapartner ni hydrogen is your potassium. There. Okay? So I hope this, para hindi kayo malito pag nakita nyo itong figure na to, takot na kagad kayo. No. Understand, anong goal ko is to produce hydrochloric acid. My hydrogen came from my carbonic acid. My chloride came from the electroneutral exchange of bicarbonate and chloride. And my potassium is exchanged for the secretion of my hydrogen. So now I have my hydrochloric acid. Okay? So how about naman yung pag-control natin ng gastric acid secretion? Okay, so what are some factors that control your gastric acid secretion? Number one is the hormone gastrin. Your gastrin directly stimulates, so this is the parietal cell pala ha, this orange, this green thing right here. This green thing right here is your parietal cell and it's the one that secretes your acid. Your gastrin stimulates, wag niyo na alalahan yung receptor, basta your gastrin directly stimulates your parietal cell to secrete acid. Also, your gastrin can stimulate your enterochromaffin-like cell, which secretes your histamine, which stimulates your parietal cell. Okay, so histamine stimulates your parietal cell to secrete acid, and also your acetylcholine from your parasympathetic fibers, from your vagus nerve. Syempre, di ba, your vagus nerve for resting and digesting, it can improve your acid secretion. And so these three factors, di ba, your gastrin, your histamine, and your acetylcholine will stimulate your parietal cell to secrete your acid. Okay, so here it's summarized in this table right here. So we have your gastric distension. Kapag may food sa stomach, gastric distension, that will allow your vagus nerve to send signals, your acetylcholine, your neurotransmitter for your parasympathetic nervous system to stimulate the parietal cell to secrete acid. Also stimulates gastrin, which in turn stimulates your parietal cell to secrete acid. It also stimulates your ECL cell, which secretes histamine, which improves acid secretion. But it inhibits your D cell. Ano ba yung D cell na yan? It secretes SST or somatostatin. Guys, kapag narinig nyo yung word na statin or somatostatin, it means stop. Okay? Somatostatin, stop. Pag narinig nyo yan, ibig sabihin that's a signal or that cell, that secretion will stop gastric acid secretion. Bakit kapag may gastric distension tayo, ini-inhibit natin yung secretion ng somatostatin? Ayan, ini-inhibit yung secretion ng somatostatin. Kasi nga, gusto natin mag-produce ng acid. Di ba? Eh si somatostatin, ini-stop niya yung production of acid. So we need to inhibit the secretion of somatostatin para meron tayong acid. Okay? Next, how about protein? So present protein, same thing. It will stimulate your proteins in the stomach stimulates your G cell, which secretes your gastrin. And that, again, stimulates your parietal cell. It stimulates your ECL cell, this one. Diba? But, The presence of proteins, tingnan nyo actually stimulates your D cell, somatostatin. Bakit nangyari yun? Siyempre, nakalagay dyan, it's a negative feedback. Ayaw naman natin na sobrang daming acid pinoproduce natin. Otherwise, pwedeng ma-degrade yung stomach lining. Diba? So, we need to have a negative feedback na, ay, nagpo-produce na ako ng sobrang daming acid. Diba? Nagpo-produce na sobrang daming acid. Stop na muna. I stimulate my D cell to secrete somatostatin to stop further acid secretion. Okay? So, that's a negative feedback para hindi sobrang daming acid ma-produce. So, gastric distension inhibits your D cell, so wala kang somatostatin. But, actually, your proteins stimulate your D cell. So that's a negative feedback to stop acid secretion. Okay? So, ECL cell stimulates your parietal cell to secrete acid while, very important, yung last column na to. Yan na yung sinasabi natin negative feedback. Increase in luminal acid or decrease in pH. Okay? Decrease in pH. Sobrang acidic na. Stop na muna tayo sa pag-produce ng acid. So, the one that senses that is your D cell secreting somatostatin, and it would inhibit everything. It would inhibit parietal cell acid secretion, it will inhibit G cell secretion of gastrin, and it will inhibit ECL cell secretion of histamine. Okay? Sige. So, letter A is wrong because secretin actually inhibits your gastric acid secretion. Gastric secretion does not begin until food enters the stomach. Di ba hindi? We have the cephalic phase, 30%. Gastric phase, 60%, and intestinal phase, 10%. Diba? So, kahit wala pang food sa stomach, cephalic phase, naisip mo pa lang yung food, you will now already produce gastric acid, 30%. Letter C, most of the secretion of acid occurs during the intestinal phase. No, most occurs still in the gastric phase kapag may food na sa stomach. Okay? That's 60%. So, this is in the gastric phase dapat. And letter D, yes, indeed. Gastric acid is secreted by your oxyntic glands or in response to your hormonal stimulation. Oxyntic glands, oxyntic cells, or your parietal cells. Okay? Sige. Next, secretion of hydrochloric acid by gastric parietal cells is needed for activation of... So aside from... So kailangan natin yung acid na yan to denature the protein so that we can easily digest them. Pero important din yung hydrochloric acid in activating the main protein for the digestion of your proteins in your stomach, which is your pepsin. So it's released by your peptic or chief cells in the base of your gland. So your peptic or chief cells secrete pepsinogen. Okay, so secrete nito is pepsinogen. So this pepsinogen, pag may gen kayo narinig, it's an inactive form of the enzyme. Okay? How will it be activated? By the action of your hydrochloric acid secreted by your oxyntic or parietal cells. Again, ECL cells secrete histamine, mucous neck cells and surface neck cells, surface mucous cells release mucus to protect the stomach lining from the acid. So yung mucus lining na yan protects the stomach lining from the acid na secrete natin para hindi ma-digest yung stomach lining natin. Okay? So this one is activation of pepsinogen. Okay? So your hydrochloric acid activates pepsinogen. Now we have pepsin, which is an active enzyme, and that allows you to digest your dietary proteins into partially digested proteins. Okay? Sige. Gastrointestinal secretion that has a high bicarbonate content without hormonal control. A, saliva. B, gastric secretion. C, pancreatic secretion. Or D, bile. Okay. So we have to review. Ano ba yung contents ng each one of these? This one is your salivary gland secretions. Diba? You have two phases, your acinar and your ductal stage. Your acinar stage, responsible for your primary secretion, and then your thiolin or salivary alpha amylase, responsible for the initial digestion of your carbohydrates. Mucus to lubricate your mouth, diba? So, the secretions here are still isotonic. Ay, wala ka namang nire-absorb, wala ka namang sinicrete na ion. So, isotonic dyan. Pagdating sa ductal stage, ito yung duct. Okay, ito yung acinar, ito yung duct. Okay, you now have active absorption of sodium, passive absorption of chloride, and secretion of your potassium and bicarbonate. So what you actually produce here, because of these absorptions and secretions, is a hypotonic saliva. Slightly hypotonic saliva. And kung titignan nyo, what happens is, nire-absorb mo yung sodium and chloride, meaning, sa saliva mo, mababa yung sodium and chloride. But you secreted potassium and bicarbonate. So in the saliva, okay, in the saliva, you have high potassium and high bicarbonate content. Now, ano yung nag-stimulate ng salivary gland secretion natin? Primarily your parasympathetic nervous system. Not primarily controlled by hormones, but by your parasympathetic nervous system. For your parotid gland, that's your glossopharyngeal nerve. And for your submandibular and sublingual glands, that's your facial nerve. Diba? So, answer here without hormonal control is actually your saliva. Your gastric secretion is acidic. Your pancreatic secretion does have bicarbonate, but it has a hormonal stimulus. You'll see later that's secretin. And your bile, syempre, no. Okay? So, high bicarbonate content without hormonal control, that will be your saliva. So, your bicarbonate there is due to your neurocrine or your nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system control by your glossopharyngeal and your facial nerve. Okay? Sige. Next, which gastrointestinal secretion has a component that is required for the intestinal absorption of vitamin B12? So I think this is very much emphasized by your professors, Doc King or Doc Kunanan. Your parietal cells, aside from secreting hydrochloric acid, also produce intrinsic factor. And your intrinsic factor needs to it's the one that allows your absorption of your vitamin B12 in the terminal ileum. Okay? So aside from hydrochloric acid, si parietal cell nag-secrete siya ng intrinsic factor. And that is a factor you need for the reabsorption of your vitamin B12. Without this, you will have no absorption of vitamin B12 and you will have pernicious anemia. Kasi your vitamin B12 and your folate, vitamin B9, are essential in the production of your red blood cells. Okay? Sige. Next. Which gastrointestinal secretion is inhibited when the pH of the stomach is 1.0? So, we've already touched on this concept kanina. Tingnan nyo 1.0 pH is very acidic already. Therefore, what should we inhibit? Indeed, the further secretion of gastric acid. Diba? It's this one. High luminal acid, low pH, would stimulate your D cells to secrete somatostatin, which would inhibit everything. Stop muna tayo sa pag-secrete ng acid, sobrang dami na. Okay? So, this is a negative feedback mechanism to maintain yung patency ng ating stomach lining para hindi ma-corrode ng acid. Okay? Next, responsible for the production of enzyme-rich pancreatic fluid. So remember, di ba? Your pancreatic fluid is composed of your enzymes for the digestion and you also have bicarbonate. Why do you need bicarbonate? Di ba kasi sa stomach, meron tayong acid. Siyempre, pagpunta natin sa small intestine, hindi naman tama na acidic pa rin, that would degrade the lining of your intestine. Plus, your enzymes in your pancreatic secretions are activated at neutral or slightly alkaline pH. So you need to be able to neutralize the acid coming from your stomach into your duodenum, your small intestine, by bicarbonate. So again, primarily you have two secretions. You have your bicarbonate, okay, for neutralizing the acidic chyme, and you have your enzymes for digestion. Okay? Enzymes for digestion. The primary stimulus for the secretion of your bicarbonate is secretin. Kapag sobrang acidic na sa duodenum, mag-secrete ng secretin, and that would cause a bicarbonate-rich secretion. And as you can see, parang parehas lang siya dun sa salivary gland secretion natin. You have your acinar and ductal stage. Diba? So, ang secretion ng bicarbonate natin is here in the ductal stage. Diba? And that is stimulated by your secretin. For your enzyme secretion, that is caused by your CCK. Primarily, marami yan. But primary for your level, it's your cholecystokinin, which stimulates your pancreas to secrete its exocrine secretions. Okay? Which are the enzymes going to your duodenum to digest your proteins and your carbohydrates. That's your, di ba? You have your trypsinogen, you have your pancreatic amylase, etc. Okay? So enzyme-rich is cholecystokinin. Bicarbonate-rich is secretin. Okay. The highest pattern of bile acid synthesis and secretion rate is observed during... So, ano ba yung bile acid na yan? So, I'm sure nagsawa na kayo sa diagram na to. Your bile acids, okay, are necessary for the digestion of your fats. Your fats are very large globules. Kapag yung mga fats na yon pumunta sa duodenum, small intestine, hindi siya kaagad na-act upon by your pancreatic lipase. You still need to break it down or emulsify it. And the ones that do that are what you call your bile acids. And your bile acids are derived from cholesterol. Okay? So, your primary bile acids are cholic acid or chenodeoxycholic acid. Primary, they are produced in the liver. And you have your secondary bile acids after the action of your colonic bacteria. Okay? So, di ba, I think si Doc Kunanan minention niya na para matalala nyo kung ano yung primary, secondary, alphabetical lang. Lahat ng mga C, oh, primary sila. Nauna sila sa alphabet and yung mga hindi na C, deoxycholic, lithocolic, ursocholic, sila na yung mga secondary bile acids natin. Now, here you can see the conjugation of your bile acids. Why do you need conjugation of your bile acids? Because your bile acids are derived from cholesterol, they are still non-polar. They are lipophilic, meaning hindi sila water soluble. Kung hindi sila water soluble, edi pagdating nila sa small intestine, 'di ba, lipid soluble sila. Hindi sila water soluble pero lipid soluble sila. Hindi nila magagawa yung trabaho nila of emulsifying the fat kasi kung ito yung intestine, ito yung bile acid. Remember, the lining of your small intestine is a phospholipid bilayer. Fats yan, non-polar. So it just can easily diffuse. Kung nandito yung fats mo, ang goal mo is to emulsify it using your bile acids, edi wala na, na-reabsorb na yung bile acid mo kasi nga, lipid soluble sila, hindi sila water soluble. Diba? So your goal is to improve the activity of your bile acids by making them stay inside the lumen of your small intestine to be able to emulsify your fats. And you do that by what you call conjugation. Conjugation of your bile acids to amino acids, glycine and taurine, which would cause them to be water soluble. Diba? So hindi na sila lipid soluble, water soluble na sila. They will stay in the intestine to augment your emulsification process. Now, your bile acids, syempre, so yan, hepatic synthesis, di ba? Start tayo dito para hindi kayo magulo. Hepatic synthesis of your bile acids, okay? It goes to your small intestine. It can be stored in your gallbladder, but it will go to your small intestine for digestion, for your emulsification of your fats, na-emulsify na, na-emulsify, na-emulsify na. Tapos na yung trabaho nila. Of course, para hindi masayang, they would be recycled into what you call your enterohepatic circulation at your terminal ileum. Okay, at your terminal ileum, you have your ASBT or your apical sodium bile acid transporter that would actively uptake your bile acids back into the liver. Para hindi sayang, recycle natin, di ba? So, para hindi tayo produce, recycle na lang natin yung mga bile acids natin so that they can go back and and go back and emulsify the fats again in the small intestine. Okay. Eh, sabi dito sa question, highest pattern of bile acid synthesis and secretion rate is observed during what event? Paano mag-i-increase yung bile acid synthesis natin dito, hepatic synthesis? Mag-i-increase yung hepatic synthesis natin ng bile acid kung hindi natin nare-recycle yung mga bile acid na sinicrete natin. Kung hindi sila bumabalik dito, kung wala to, then we would need to create more bile acid and by hepatic synthesis from cholesterol. Okay? And how would that happen? Paano mawawala tong uptake na to? By the surgical resection of your ileum. Kung wala yan, wala kang ESBT, the bile acids will proceed to your feces, you will have no enterohepatic circulation, you will be forced to produce your bile acid from cholesterol. Okay? So that is your surgical resection of your ileum. Okay? So that's it for your secretions, your gastric secretion, pancreatic secretion, salivary secretion. We now move on to digestion, absorption, and your liver. Okay, that's GI3. Sabi dyan, every time Juan drinks milk, he would have a feeling of bloatedness and diarrhea. So, I'm sure very familiar na kayo. This is lactose intolerance. He's mostly likely deficient in, so, since lactose intolerance nga to, definitely enzymes ang kulang. Wala siyang lactase because your lactase digests your lactose, which is a disaccharide of glucose and galactose from your milk, and it digests it into galactose and glucose. Kapag wala yan, your lactose will not be reabsorbed, but will proceed to your colon. And in your colon, there are gut bacteria. Sila yung magpa-ferment or sila yung magda-digest nung lactose na yon, and the byproduct of that kapag ng bacterial activity is your gases, diarrhea, bloating. Yon. That's your lactose intolerance. So kulang siya sa enzymes, particularly your lactase. Okay. Initial digestion of this food group occurs in the stomach, so we've already touched on this. Initially, your proteins are digested in the stomach. Why? Because in your stomach, you have your pepsin. Okay? How about your carbohydrates? Initial digestion yan, probably in the mouth. Pero konti lang kasi yun, di ba? Usually, pancreatic secretion talaga sa intestine, yung pancreatic amylase yung primary. Fats, I think you also have your lingual lipase, but primarily you also have your pancreatic lipase. Di ba? I think you also have your gastric lipase. Di ba? So, dami. But primarily, your proteins are the ones digested in the stomach. Ay, sige. That's your action of your pepsin, which is activated by hydrochloric acid to activate pepsinogen to pepsin. Okay? This one in the stomach, this one produced by your pancreas, this one in the brush border in your intestines. Okay? And then your amino acids are the ones that you can reabsorb or absorb in your lining of the small intestine. Okay? Next. Which of the following statements correctly describes the site of absorption of the various nutrients? Stomach ba? Carbohydrates? No. Stomach, probably just your alcohol. Your carbohydrates primarily absorbed in your small intestine. Duodenum, alcohol, hindi rin. I think this is in the stomach primarily. Okay? Your jejunum, folate, tama ba yan? Large intestine, iron. You know, there's a mnemonic provided by Doc King. Hindi ko alam kung pinrovide din niya sa inyo. This mnemonic, hindi ko alam kung nakita niyo na, is Internet for Business. I don't know why. Hindi ko alam if it makes sense to you. To me, it kind of makes sense and it kind of doesn't din. Pero hanggang ngayon, hindi ko siya makalimutan. Your Internet for Business or IFB describes the site of absorption of your iron, folate, and your vitamin B12. Diba? In the order of the small intestine from your duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. So your duodenum is the primary site of absorption of iron, jejunum, primary site of absorption of folate, your ileum is the primary site of absorption of your vitamin B12. Okay, so jejunum, folate, okay, tama yan. Your iron is in the duodenum. Okay, so remember, Internet for Business. Next, at the health center, you have a 6-year-old boy with diarrhea given a liter of water with 6 teaspoons of sugar and half a teaspoon of salt to be taken within the next few hours. This is supposed to address his dehydration. The physiologic basis of this is, so bakit nga ba nagbibigay tayo ng salt, sugar, kasama ng water? Kasi, di ba, remember, how is your sodium and your glucose absorbed in the small intestine? You have your secondary active transport, SGLT1, sodium, glucose co-transporter 1, absorb sodium, absorb your glucose, co-transport, di ba? Via secondary active transport because you have your primary active transporter here, your sodium, potassium, ATPase. Okay. So, bakit nga? So, yun, na-establish na natin that your sodium and glucose come in via the exact same transporter, which is your SGLT1. How can this solve his dehydration? It's because water absorption in the GI tract is a passive process via an osmotic gradient. Ano ba yung osmotic gradient? Diba? Osmotic is may pull. Okay? So, the osmotic gradient from the reabsorption of your glucose and your sodium, diba? These are electrolytes, these are osmoles that can exert osmotic pressure on your water where sodium, where solutes are, water follows. There we go. We have the passive absorption of water through the small intestine since pinupull sila ng mga nire-absorb mong solutes which are sodium, amino acids, and glucose. Okay? So, because salt and glucose enter the body via the same transporter, they exert osmotic pressure, bringing with them the water, solving the dehydration of the 6-year-old boy. Next, the substance absorbed by facilitated diffusion along the luminal side of the duodenal cells is, so, ito yung luminal side, ito yung paracellular space o yung blood side, okay? Your glucose here is absorbed by a secondary active transport, SGLT. Bile acids, di ba, active yan, your ASBT, your apical sodium bile acid transporter. Cholesterol is via endocytosis, which is an active transport as well. Your fructose, here, hindi siya sumasama sa glucose, sa SGLT1. By the way, your galactose as well can enter via SGLT1, so sodium galactose co-transporter 1. Your fructose, okay, your fructose enters via a different transporter, and that is your GLUT5. And your GLUT5 is not a secondary active transporter, it's just a facilitated transporter, it functions for facilitated diffusion. Okay? So again, glucose and galactose via SGLT1, secondary active transport, fructose via GLUT5, that's a facilitated diffusion. And all of them, glucose, galactose, and fructose, will exit the cell and go into the circulation via GLUT2, which is now a facilitated diffusion process. So pag exit na nila ng cell, lahat sila facilitated diffusion na. But on the luminal side, it's only your fructose via GLUT5, which is absorbed via facilitated diffusion. Okay? Sige. Which of the following is observed after cholecystectomy? And you see the options. Meron tayong stercobilin, urobilin. I'm sure you've encountered these. These are byproducts of your heme metabolism. So you have here, so kapag matanda na yung mga red blood cells natin, they need to be broken down. And syempre, may hemoglobin sila sa loob. Your hemoglobin, di ba? Your hemoglobin is comprised of your globin and your heme. And then you have your iron and the porphyrin ring. The iron will be recycled. The globin chain will be recycled into amino acids, but the porphyrin ring should be discarded. Okay? So, the porphyrin ring will be transformed via heme oxygenase to biliverdin. Via biliverdin reductase, it will be transformed to bilirubin. Okay, so now we have bilirubin degraded. Bilirubin is not water soluble. Your bilirubin should be taken to your liver, okay, to be excreted into the bile so that you can excrete it out. Okay, bilirubin is not water soluble. So how can you bring it to the liver? So you need to transport it via albumin. So si bilirubin and si bilirubin magbabind kay albumin so that it can be water soluble, so that it can be transported to the liver. So now we have bilirubin in the liver and still unconjugated, meaning wala pa nakakabit sa kanya. Yung kaninang kumabit na albumin, transporter lang yun para lang madala siya sa liver. But in the liver, we have what we call your conjugation process, okay? And your conjugation process allows it again to be water soluble para hindi siya ma-absorb dito sa intestine, para ma-excrete mo siya. Okay? So, you have now your conjugated bilirubin acted upon by your glucuronyl transferase, di ba? That enzyme, ilalagay niya yung glucuronic acid group dun sa bilirubin so that it will be water soluble. And then you secrete it into your bile here. And then some are, or actually most nga are reabsorbed by an active process, your enterohepatic circulation that we brought back to your liver. But some, inevitably, dumidiretso papuntang large intestine. Okay? And in the large intestine, they are again acted by your bacteria to form urobilinogen. Okay? Your urobilinogen, okay, can be further oxidized into urobilin and stercobilin. And from the name itself, stercobilin, it goes to your feces, okay? And it's the responsible for the yellow color or the color of your feces. But some urobilinogen can also be reuptaken into your portal vein, back to your liver. But some also ay nasa spill over papuntang systemic circulation. Okay? So urobilinogen not taken up by the liver reaches systemic circulation and it can now be excreted via your kidney. So in essence, what happens is, ang goal natin is to excrete bilirubin. So dinalated siya sa liver, kinonjugate sa liver para maging water soluble, and then we excreted it through the large intestine via bacteria, naging urobilinogen, naging stercobilin via further oxidation to end up in the feces. But, so yan yung first route sa feces, colonic route. But some urobilinogen can be reabsorbed back to the liver, pero there's spillover going to the systemic circulation, but it can be safely excreted via your kidney. So urine route naman to. So urobilinogen excreted in urine. Now, saan tayo magkakaroon ng problema, okay, regarding the excretion of our bilirubin? Number one, kapag sobrang dami nating napoproduce na bilirubin. Let's say may hemolytic anemia ka, sobrang nabe-breakdown yung mga red blood cells mo, you produce a lot of bilirubin. Okay? Or, kung may blockage dito sa biliary system, hindi mo rin siya mailabas. Right? So, primarily, what happens is, kapag before the liver, or what we call prehepatic yung problem, that would primarily cause an increase in your B1. Diba? Your B1 is your unconjugated bilirubin. Kasi hindi nga siya, sobrang daming unconjugated bilirubin na produce mo from your hemolytic anemia breakdown. Okay, hindi maka-keep up yung liver sa pag-conjugate. You have sobrang dami mong napaproduce na unconjugated bilirubin. But kung right after the liver or what we call post-hepatic yung problem, na-conjugate mo na yung bilirubin mo, hindi mo lang siya mailabas. So, what happens is, nagkakaroon ka na increase in your B2 or your conjugated bilirubin. Okay? So, kapag meron kang gallstones, yan. That can increase your conjugated bilirubin. Okay? So, which of the following is observed after cholecystectomy? O bakit stercobilin present in the feces, urobilinogen present in the urine? By the way, syempre, kung may blockage dito, then you would also have less of these. But, sabi dito, cholecystectomy. Tinanggal mo yung gallbladder. But your bile is only stored in your gallbladder. It's not produced there. So kahit tinanggal mo yung gallbladder mo, it will still go down via your common hepatic duct into your common bile duct through the biliary system, and still, you will still have secretion of your bilirubin, and it will be stercobilin in the feces, urobilinogen present in the urine. Diba? Ito yung liver, ito yung gallbladder, here is your common hepatic duct, here is your cystic duct, diba? Common hepatic duct, cystic duct, and here is your common bile duct. Kahit tanggalin mo to, you would still be able to still excrete your bile in this way. Diba? So you still have stercobilin in the feces, you still have urobilinogen in the urine. Okay. So, that actually ends the main part of our review session. I hope you learned a lot and reviewed a lot of the main concepts, and alam nyo na paano i-tackle yung questions, how to actually apply what you've learned. And nakita nyo na kung ano yung relevance ng mga question. Ganun sila tinatanong. They have some clinical applications, some analysis questions. So you can now stop watching at this point. But if you are one of those people who want to dare to be great, who want to be challenged and really up your game and improve your way of thinking in medicine, your clinical reasoning, and your ability to really think deeply about how to synthesize and apply the information that you've just learned, hindi lang passive memorization. Here is a segment for you, a challenge section, USMLE Step 1 questions. I'm sure you're very familiar with the USMLE, the United States Medical Licensure Examination. In comparison to your PLE, Philippine Physician Licensure Examination, mas konting questions sila, but all of their questions are high-order questions, clinical questions, may clinical vignette, laging may case. Sa PLE, although 1,200 questions yun, there are many, many low-order questions. So I think honing your skill in your high-order questions is good generally, but it will not help you in your PLE kasi nga puro low order sa PLE. But if you want to be if you want to be on your path towards becoming a great doctor, we have to improve on our ability to reason out in our clinical reasoning, di ba? USMLE questions provides us with an avenue to do that. And so, ano kayo? LeapMed Batch 2026, show me everything you've got. Okay? Dare to be great. Let's go. A 63-year-old female is diagnosed with an intractable duodenal ulcer. After consultation with a surgeon, it is recommended that she undergo selective antral vagotomy. Subsequently, the patient experiences nausea and vomiting after ingestion of a mixed meal. Which of the following best explains her symptoms? Okay, pause. Analyze. You have duodenal ulcer. Probably you have way too much acid production. Okay? Now, kaya nag-request ng antral vagotomy is so that we can also stop the production of your gastric acid. Kasi your vagus nerve also plays a role. Diba? Your acetylcholine stimulates your parietal cells to secrete acid. Now, pag vagotomy, tatanggalin natin yung vagus nerve. That would, of course, decrease your gastric acid secretion to cure your duodenal ulcer. Now, tingnan yung options. We are being tasked to determine kung increased or decreased yung magiging gastric emptying ng either solids or liquids. Anong connection ng antral vagotomy sa gastric emptying? So recall, what happens in your antrum? Alam niyo yung parts ng stomach, di ba? So, esophagus, cardia, fundus, greater curvature, lesser curvature. This is your body, and this is your pylorus. Right? So this is your antrum, di ba? Antrum. This is your fundus. This is your cardia. This is your body. So this is your antrum. Ito yung pylorus. Anong nangyayari dito sa segment na to? Di ba sa segment na yan, dyan tayo nagkakaroon ng PGR, propulsion, grinding, and retropulsion. What happens there? So you have a peristaltic wave to bring down food towards your pylorus. And then, dun sa pyloric antrum, nagkakaroon tayo ng grinding motion para palitin yung food. Di ba syempre, pag pinalit mo yung food, it can now easily pass through the duodenum. But, kung sobrang laki pa rin ng food segments mo, hindi siya makadaloy sa pyloric canal, then it will be pushed back to the stomach for further digestion. That's your retropulsion. That's what happens in your antrum. So, syempre, control yan ng vagus nerve as well. Kung nagkaroon tayo ng antral vagotomy, then everything happening here would not be as good. If whatever is happening here will not be as good, then you would not have grinding of your food. You will not be able to, hindi mo mapapaliit yung food segments mo. And what would that cause? That would cause a decrease in the gastric emptying of your solids. Kasi hindi mo nga sila mag-grind. So, mas matagal mo silang ma-release papuntang duodenum. Your liquids will not be affected. You don't need, mabilis lang yan nagpa-pass through. Liquids lang yan. Hindi yan malaki. Okay? But your solids need to be grinded to smaller pieces before it can proceed through the pyloric canal. Kung wala kang vagus nerve controlling your propulsion, grinding, and retropulsion, you would have a decreased gastric emptying of your solids. Okay. That's question 1 down. Next, a 49-year-old man undergoes complete gastric vagotomy naman. So, buong stomach, tinanggalan ng vagus nerve for his peptic ulcer disease. Well, understandable. Which of the following gastrointestinal motor activities will be affected most? Which of the following gastrointestinal motor activities will be affected most? Is it secondary esophageal peristalsis, distension-induced intestinal segmentation, ORAD, stomach accommodation, or migrating motor complexes? Look, guys, lahat yan, merong say or may contribution si vagus nerve. But if you see what happens here in secondary esophageal peristalsis. Di ba meron tayong primary esophageal peristalsis for the initial food bolus that comes down. And you also have your secondary esophageal peristalsis kapag may natirang food sa esophagus. That secondary esophageal peristalsis is actually more or less controlled by your enteric nervous system. Primarily your enteric nervous system. May say si vagus nerve. But as we said, di ba, enteric nervous system, hiwalay siya na para siyang brain of the gut. Di ba? May sariling utak that is controlled or that is modulated by the CNS and the parasympathetic nervous system but can act on its own. And that's the one that primarily causes this. Same thing with this one. Ayan, no? Distension induced. Naalala niyo yung diagram natin kanina, this one? Distended yung epithelium ng GI tract mo, for example. Your sensory neurons will sense that, and so that would cause, it can cause reflexes. Ayan, no? Kita niyo to? Hindi lang siya paakyat ng brain, but it can also induce yung stretching nito via your sensory neurons, induce reflexes going to your myenteric and submucosal plexus of your enteric nervous system to also cause intestinal segmentation. This is also ENS. Your migrating motor complexes, I think hindi ito na-discuss sa LeapMed, I'm not sure, but your migrating motor complexes are stimulated by motilin and your enteric nervous system. And what your migrating motor complexes actually do is kapag fasting ka, kapag wala kang kinakain, nag-send pa rin ng contraction signals yung ating enteric nervous system ng migrating motor complexes, migrating from the stomach all the way to the terminal colon, to the ileum, okay? Para ma-flush out lahat ng mga natirang food. Di ba, hindi ka kumakain? pero baka kasi may mga natirang food, okay? So, yung migrating motor complexes, parang fina-flush out niya yung buong GI tract. Okay? So, that's controlled by your motor and ENS. However, your stomach accommodation, yung adaptive relaxation natin, is primarily controlled by your vagovagal reflex. Okay? Not primarily by your ENS, but your vagovagal reflex. Kapag nagkaroon ka ng vagotomy, mawawala na yung vagovagal reflex mo. You would not have the reflex relaxation of the gastric fundus. And you would not have the gastric relaxation sana dito to accommodate the food. Look at what happens. Pag normal ka, ito, normal, kahit ilan food kinain mo, okay, kahit nag-increase yung volume ng food mo, hindi nag-i-increase yung intraluminal pressure mo. Why? Kasi nga, because of your gastric accommodation or your adaptive relaxation, hindi nag-i-increase yung pressure kasi lumalaki na lumalaki yung stomach to accommodate the food. But kung nagkaroon ka ng vagotomy, look at what happens. Wala kang vagus nerve, wala kang relaxation, thereby, punong-puno na ng space yung stomach mo na hindi nag-expand, you now have an increase in intraluminal pressure. Okay? That's what happens in vagotomy. You have an increase in intraluminal pressure because you don't have vagus nerve, you don't have a relaxation. And so, that's the one that would be most affected. Orad just means oral, patas. Kaudad, meaning pababa. Diba? Orad, oral, kaudad, pababa. So, orad, this one, oral part. Diba? Mag-relax yan. Kaso wala kang vagus nerve. So, hindi nag-relax. It would be affected because of your vagotomy. Okay. Next, the following diagram shows a bowel portion with rhythmic segmentation, which results from the collaborative action of an intestinal smooth muscle layer and the rhythmic activity of inhibitory neurons. If 1, 2, and 3 represent 3 inhibitory enteric neurons, which of the following neurons is currently inactive? So 1, 2, and 3 daw are all inhibitory. Lahat sila inhibitory daw. So which of the following is currently inactive? Okay. Remember, kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng peristalsis, ang goal natin is to contract proximally and relax distally. Therefore, your Auerbach's plexus needs to stimulate contraction of proximal segment via acetylcholine, by the way, and relaxation of the distal segment via your nitric oxide and your vasoactive intestinal peptide. Okay. Now, kapag meron tayong inhibitory enteric neurons, inhibitory, meaning it will cause relaxation. So 1, 2, and 3 daw, lahat sila inhibitory. So, dapat magre-relax. So, alin yung mga nag-relax dito? Segment 1 and segment 3. Meaning, neurons 1 and 3 are inhibitory enteric neurons that are active. Eh si 2, yan yung nangyari kay 2. Contracted siya. Kung si 2 is contracted, meaning, hindi niya napaperform yung inhibitory enteric activity niya, so inactive siya. Okay? And that could cause contraction. Kuha nyo, 1 and 3, inhibitory sila, active sila, relaxation. Si 2, inhibitory siya, pero inactive, contraction. What does this tell you? The contraction, okay, the contraction of particular segments in the GI tract is by the inhibition of inhibitory neurons. Tingnan nyo ah. The contraction of segments of your GI tract is via inhibition of your inhibitory enteric neurons, causing your contraction. Okay? So, 1 and 3 are inhibitory enteric neurons, and they will cause relaxation. So, 2 is the one that is inactive kasi contracted siya. So, answer here would be letter B, 2 only. Okay? Sige. Ooh, what's this? In a patient with long-standing GI problems, an electrode was planted on the serosal surface of the upper jejunum when the patient was undergoing surgery. So, may electrode daw sa jejunum. After recovery from surgery, the electrode records slow waves at a frequency of 11 per minute. So, 11 slow waves per minute. A manometric sensor, meaning minimeasure niya yung pressure, measures the frequency of peristaltic contractile events per minute at the site of the implanted electrode. Which of the following is the number of contractions per minute that would be interpreted as normal physiologic activity? Okay. This is a core concept, di ba, of your slow waves and your spike potentials. Again, Slow waves do not produce contraction. Spike potentials produce contraction. But your slow waves, the frequency of your slow waves, increases the probability of having those spike potentials. Kasi slow waves yun, pag nag-stretch ka pa, then it would probably cause a spike potential. So, these slow waves increase the probability of having contractions. Tingnan nyo, 11 per minute ang slow waves natin. Ano ngayon? Yung number of contractions. Yung slow waves, hindi yan nagpo-produce ng contraction. But it can increase the probability of spike potentials. So in 1 minute, would it be 0 without food? 11 and lower? Exactly 11? 11 and higher? Or 11 and higher? 11 and higher at any time? Or 11 and higher with food? So pause. Think about it. Your slow waves dictate dictate how much spike potentials can occur per minute. Actually, your slow waves dictate the maximum amount of contractions that your GI tract can perform in a minute. Kasi, kung kunwari, 11 lang yung slow waves mo, 11 lang yung slow waves mo, yan na yung maximum amount, okay? Yan na yung maximum amount na pwede ka makapag-produce ng spike potential. Dito, spike potential dyan, spike potential dyan, spike potential dyan, spike potential dyan. Maximum na yan. Pero, pwede rin, meron ako slow wave, let's say 11 yan, pero hindi naman ako na-stretch, wala naman ako acetylcholine, pwedeng 0 din. Pwedeng meron ako 11 slow waves, pero wala akong contraction. Ito, meron ako 11 slow waves, yung pag-akyat niya dito sa slow wave, biglang nag-stretch, may pagkain, boom, spike potential, contraction. So, kung 11 yan, therefore, the maximum amount of spike potentials and contraction that can occur is also 11. Maximum na yan. Because only your slow waves, okay, and the excitation afterward via spike potential can produce contraction. Okay? So parang ano, ini-induce niya yung spike potential by giving it may higher probability. Kung 11 yan, then 11 lang din yung pwedeng ma-produce na spike potential. But not necessarily. Okay? Pwedeng may slow wave lang ako ng 11 pero wala namang pagkain, hindi siya magko-contract. Okay? So the answer here is 11 and lower. 11 is already the maximum amount of contractions that we can produce. This is your slow wave. Slow wave. Boom. Nag-stretch. Contraction. That's it. An 18-year-old man severs his spinal cord at P5 in an automobile accident when a mass movement propels bowel contents from the colon into the rectum. Which of the following actions in the rectum and anus will occur in this patient? Okay, analyze. The patient severed his spinal cord at T5. Okay. When a mass movement propels bowel contents from the colon into the rectum, which of the following actions in the rectum and the anus will occur in this patient? So, we have to understand what happens kapag nagkaroon ng feces sa rectum sa ating internal and external anal sphincter. Your rectosphincteric reflex is illustrated on the left. If you have food in your rectum, that would stretch your rectum, causing afferent signals to go to where? Pataas ba sa brain? No. Primarily, syempre, yes, meron din. Pero primarily, it's a reflex, meaning it is integrated in the spinal cord. Your afferent nerve fibers or sensory nerve fibers can synapse to parasympathetic nerve fibers, particularly pelvic nerves, to go back to your colon to induce what? The relaxation of your internal anal sphincter and the reflex contraction of your external anal sphincter. Ulit. Sabi natin, the stimulus nag-stretch yung rectum. The sense ng afferent nerve fibers. And it goes to your spinal cord. It's a reflex, so it goes to your spinal cord. To synapse, okay? Primarily, this is the sacral segment of your spinal cord. Sacral yan, sacral. Synapses with a parasympathetic nerve fiber, particularly a pelvic nerve, to induce relaxation of your internal anal sphincter. Kasi nga, di ba, may laman yung rectum. So, i-relax daw niya yung internal anal sphincter para bumukas so that it can go down. Pero, kung hindi mo pa naman gusto, hindi pa naman appropriate yung location to defecate, that would also cause a reflex contraction of your external anal sphincter. So, ang nangyayari, Reflex nag-relax si internal anal sphincter kasi nga may food, ay may feces doon sa rectum. Pero since ayaw mo pa naman mag-defecate, hindi pa naman tama yung location, meron ding reflex contraction of your external anal sphincter. That is shown here by this diagram. Increase in the pressure of your rectum causes a decrease in the pressure of your internal anal sphincter, relaxation, but also causes an increase in the pressure in your external anal sphincter, causing contraction. And then when the time is right, you have a place to defecate in the toilet, then from the conscious cortex, you can control via your pudendal nerve, your external anal sphincter for conscious defecation. Okay, anong problem natin dito? There's a spinal cord involvement at T5. But the recto-sphincteric reflex is integrated at the level of the sacral spinal cord. May maapektuhan ba? Wala. Okay? There will be contraction of the rectum to bring it down to be para makapag-defecate ka na. Relaxation of the internal anal sphincter to open the internal anal sphincter to bring it again down because since may laman na nga to signal that you need to defecate. And also a reflex contraction of your external anal sphincter since wala pa namang conscious. By the way, tignan nyo, na-sever sa T5. Diba? So, hindi makarating yung conscious signals natin sa external anal sphincter to relax or contract it. But, the reflex itself in the sacral spinal cord causes a reflex contraction of the external anal sphincter para hindi kaagad lumabas yung feces unconsciously. Diba? So, it's a protective mechanism para kahit nag-relax na yung internal anal sphincter mo, nag-contract na yung rectum mo, contract mo yung external anal sphincter para hindi lumabas ka agad yung feces without your conscious control. Okay, that would be bad. Okay? So, nagets nyo there's a problem at T5. But your rectosphincteric reflex is integrated at the level of your sacral spinal cord. Meaning, everything will still work. It will contract your rectum para to bring the feces down. It will relax the internal anal sphincter kasi nga, gusto niyang mag-defecate na kasi may laman na nga yung rectum. But, since hindi pa nga tama yung oras, there's also a reflex contraction of the external anal sphincter. Now, you may be wondering, baka sipin nyo, di ba voluntary skeletal muscle lang ang external anal sphincter? Bakit siya naapektuhan ng rectosphincteric reflex unconscious? Actually, your external anal sphincter has both skeletal and smooth muscle, meaning it has both voluntary and involuntary muscles. Okay, remember that. Okay? So, I'm not sure kung naturo sa inyo, but sige, primarily, pag nagkaroon ng QC, VR question, external anal sphincter is also voluntary. Okay? Or primarily voluntary. But, you have to understand also na meron din tayong smooth muscle and involuntary fibers in your external anal sphincter. Okay? Next, a 54-year-old woman comes to the physician for a routine follow-up. Peptic ulcer ulit. Serum studies show a fasting gastrin level of 315 picograms per milliliter. Ang normal value is less than 100, that's siya 315. The laboratory finding is most likely caused by increased hormone production from cells that are predominantly located in which of the following labeled areas? Is it in the abdominal esophagus, in the cardia, in the fundus, in the body, in the antrum, or in the pylorus? Answer, in the antrum. So, your G cells, gastrin-releasing cells, are primarily found in the antral section of your stomach. Okay, meron din tayong duodenal G cells and in the pancreas, but primarily is located in the antrum. Saan makikita yung mga pepsinogen-releasing cells, acid-secreting cells, yung parietal cells, and your chief cells? They are found primarily in the body. Okay? But the G cells, your gastrin-releasing cells, are primarily found in the antrum. Okay? Sige. That's letter C. By the way, these questions are from AMBOSS. Okay? So, kita nyo naman sa format. This is AMBOSS questions on GI physiology. Okay, next. An investigator is studying the effects of different gastrointestinal regulatory substances. A healthy subject is asked to eat a meal at R0, and the pH of the stomach contents and the rate of stomach acid secretions are measured over the next 4 hours. The results of the study are shown. Which of the following most likely contributes to the change in trajectory of the graph at the point marked by the arrow? Is it increased vagal stimulation, increased activity of D cells, H2 receptors, ECL cells, or I cells? Ooh. So, analyze natin yung graph. Here is the graph at higher magnification. Okay, and on the x-axis, we have, ano to, time ba? Okay, so hours, time in hours. On the y-axis, you have your pH. So, initially, nung kumain siya, ano nangyari sa pH na stomach contents? Bumaba, meaning naging more acidic, meaning this downward slope here is caused by your acid secretion. Okay? Caused by your acid secretion kasi bumaba yung pH. Now, the rate of the stomach acid secretion, syempre, may food ka, nag-increase, increase, 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 and then it goes down. Ang goal natin is to determine what happened at this point. Sabi dyan, no? Contributes to the change in trajectory of the graph at the point marked by the arrow. So, bumaba siya, oh. Ano daw yung nag-cause niyan? Isip. Tingnan nyo, ah. We need gastric acid secretion to digest the food. Pero, anong sabi natin kanina? There has to be a negative feedback mechanism para hindi sobrang daming gastric acid na po-produce natin. Pag marami nang na-produce, stop na. Otherwise, madadigest yung lining ng stomach natin. Nung naging acidic na yung stomach contents, meron na, may acid ka na. Stop na yung pag-produce ng acid. Sapat na yung acid natin. That would tell the parietal cells to decrease your stomach acid secretion. And the one that tells your parietal cells to stop your acid secretion is your D cells, which secrete somatostatin. We've discussed this many times. Your luminal acid causes stimulation of your D cells, causing inhibition of your acid secretion. Okay? So that's the increased activity of your D cells, which secrete somatostatin, stopping the rate of your acid secretion. Okay. So this is just an organized diagram to show you what stimulates and what inhibits hydrochloric acid secretion. HAG, H-A-G, stimulates HCl secretion. The rest inhibits gastric acid secretion. So remember HAG, H-A-G, histamine, acetylcholine, and gastrin, stimulating gastric acid secretion. The rest inhibits. Okay? Sige. Next, a 12-year-old girl is brought to the physician because of a 2-hour history of severe epigastric pain, nausea, and vomiting. Her father has a history of similar episodes of abdominal pain and diabetes mellitus. Abdominal examination shows guarding and rigidity. Ultrasonography of the abdomen shows diffuse enlargement of the pancreas. No gallstones are visualized. Which of the following is the most likely underlying cause of the patient's condition? Kita nyo dito, diffuse enlargement of the pancreas, that should immediately signal to you, plus yung epigastric pain, that there's some pancreatitis going on. Okay, pancreatitis, diba? The pancreas is located around the epigastric region. Diffuse enlargement means there's infiltration of your neutrophils, there's inflammation happening. Pancreatitis. So, ano nag-cause ng pancreatitis? Eh, wala nga daw gallstones eh. Di ba, nagkakaroon ka ng pancreatitis kapag may gallstone since nabablock yung, kung ito yung common bile duct mo, ito yung pancreatic duct mo. Kung nablock to, edi magkakaroon ka rin ng pancreatitis. Di ba? What's the reason for that? Di ba, you have your enzymes here, secreted by your pancreas. Kapag block yung kapag may gallstones ka and block your ampulla of water, di ba, going to your duodenum, that would cause premature activation of your enzymes. Eh dito wala daw gallstones. Okay? So, ano yung nag-cause ng pancreatitis? Actually, it's the same mechanism. It's actually a premature activation of your pancreatic enzymes. Hindi pa siya lumalabas from the pancreas to the duodenum. Sa pancreas na mismo, na-activate na siya. Kasi di ba, normally, inactive form o gen, trypsinogen, yung napoproduce from the pancreas. It's only in your small intestine via the action of your enterokinase that activates trypsinogen into trypsin, which in turn activates all the other precursor enzymes to their active form. Para hindi ma-digest yung pancreas, di ba? Inactive form na enzyme yung pinaproduce niya. Pagdating niya ng duodenum, dun lang siya na-activate via enterokinase, and then your trypsin there, yun yung nag-activate ng other inactive forms ng enzyme into active enzymes. But, kung nakita nyo dito, meron tayong family history of diabetes mellitus. Actually, this is a form of hereditary pancreatitis that causes a premature activation of your pancreas. Ito yung acinar cells, trypsinogen, which is supposedly dapat inactive because of the hereditary pancreatitis, because of the family history, nagkaroon ng premature activation of your trypsinogen to trypsin, causing cell injury, apoptosis, necrosis, proenzyme activation, causing inflammation, causing the pancreatitis. Okay? So, a main point dito for your level, dapat premature form ng enzyme ang nare-release from the pancreas to prevent autodigestion of your pancreas. Otherwise, if there's premature activation of your enzymes, that would cause pancreatitis, digestion of the pancreas itself. Okay? Sige. 34-year-old woman with Crohn's disease comes to the physician because of a 4-week history of nausea, bloating, and epigastric pain that radiates the right shoulder. I don't know kung meron na kayo sa anatomy nito, but pain that radiates the right shoulder probably is cholecystitis. Diba? Because your gallbladder, pag na-inflame, hits your diaphragm, and your diaphragm is controlled by C3, C4, C5, which also controls your supraclavicular nerve, causing your pain to radiate to your right shoulder. So, yan. 4 months ago, so ayan na, alam na natin, baka may cholecystitis dito. Sabi dyan, she underwent ileocecal resection for an acute intestinal obstruction. Oh, ileocecal resection. Saan natin na-recall yan kanina? Di ba sa enterohepatic circulation of your bile acids? Probably that's affected here. An ultrasound of the abdomen shows multiple echogenic foci with acoustic shadows in the gallbladder. In layman's terms, echogenic foci, di ba ultrasound? Nag-send siya ng sound. Kapag may solid object siyang na-hit, edi mag-echo, echogenic. Ibig sabihin, may solid object. Ano yung solid object na yun? Gallstones in the gallbladder. So, nagkaroon siyang gallstones, probably blocked the cystic duct causing cholecystitis, allowing it to radiate to the right shoulder. So, ano daw yung mechanism na nag-cause ng gallstones? Is it any of these? Ano kaya? Tingnan nyo sabi dyan, there's ileocecal resection. What does that mean? Wala tayong enterohepatic circulation. Meaning, hindi tayo nag-reabsorb ng bile acids. Kung hindi tayo nag-reabsorb ng bile acids, okay, probably there's also decreased bile acids in the gallbladder as well. Recall that your bile is stored in your gallbladder, di ba? In the gallbladder, there's a homeostasis, a perfect interplay of the concentration of your bile acids and cholesterol. The bile acids, aside from yung function to emulsify yung fats in the small intestine, actually have a role in solubilizing cholesterol in the gallbladder. It keeps in check. So parang hindi sobrang concentrated ng cholesterol sa gallbladder. Your bile acids actually solubilize and parang dinidissolve niya yung mga excess cholesterol para hindi sobrang taas, hindi sobrang saturated ng cholesterol sa gallbladder. So, yun yung isa pang function ng bile acids in the gallbladder. Kung wala tayong enterohepatic circulation or the reuptake of your bile acids, you will also have less bile acids in your gallbladder. If you have less bile acids in your gallbladder, that would mean there would be nothing to keep your cholesterol in check. There would be nothing to solubilize the cholesterol in your gallbladder. Meaning, pwede silang mag-form ng supersaturated cholesterol stones. Your supersaturated cholesterol stones can enlarge, become gallstones, and block your cystic duct, causing your acute cystitis. Ayan, no? Too much absorption of water from bile. Sobrang pino ng cholesterol, gallstone. Too much absorption of bile acid from bile. Wala kang bile acid, sobrang magiging prominent ng cholesterol mo, magiging pino yun, magiging gallstone. Too much cholesterol in bile. Cholesterol stones. Di ba? And that would cause your gallstones. Kung wala tong active ileal uptake or your enterohepatic circulation, you would have decreased bile acids in the gallbladder, you have increased cholesterol, causing your gallstones. Okay, so this is the answer. Decreased biliary concentration of bile acids due to impaired enterohepatic circulation of your bile acid due to the ileocecal resection. Okay? Okay, next. Sabi dito, 1-week-old male newborn, genetic analysis shows phenylketonuria. Ang important lang naman dito, basahin nyo, tinan nyo. Sabi dyan, dapat daw mag-avoid ng artificial sweeteners that contain aspartame because aspartame is a molecule composed of aspartate and phenylalanine. Okay? May phenylketonuria na nga siya, hindi siya nakakapag-metabolize ng phenylalanine, tapos papakainin mo pa ng aspartame na may phenylalanine, that would aggravate the symptoms. So, pinapa-avoid yung aspartame. Sabi dyan, Which of the following enzymes is primarily responsible for the breakdown of aspartame? So all of these are protein digesting enzymes, but as you can see, aspartame is composed of only two amino acids, aspartic acid and phenylalanine. And what digests your proteins or amino acids or ano ba tawag? Dipeptides, from the name itself, dipeptidase. So dipeptidase digests your dipeptides into constituent amino acids. Okay? So here is your polypeptide. It's degraded by your endopeptidases and exopeptidases like your pepsin and trypsin, etc. But it's your dipeptidase that degrades your dipeptides like your aspartame, which is your aspartic acid and your phenylalanine into its constituent amino acids. So the answer here would be dipeptidase. So you see, given USMLE questions like this, na clinical, are rooted and based upon a fundamental understanding of the basic sciences. Kahit clinical yung tanong, it always relies on fundamental principles. Basic sciences of physiology, anatomy, biochemistry, microbiology, pharmacology, and pathology. Okay? Lahat yan are built upon this foundation. So we have to master them so that we can very sharply and critically analyze clinical situations. Okay? Next. As a competitive weightlifter, an 80-year-old woman desperately tries to gain weight by adding more carbs. Unfortunately, she notices that this diet, she significantly lost weight. She experiences GI distress, flatulence, steatorrhea, and diarrhea. Stool sample and intestinal biopsy are obtained for detailed analysis. The intestinal biopsy shows villus atrophy, meaning yung villi is a small intestine, which increased the surface area for absorption of the food, nag-atrophy, meaning nawala, lumiit. Crypt hyperplasia and significant lymphocyte infiltration. So probably there's an inflammatory process going on. Which of the following would most likely be decreased in the stool sample? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but the diagnosis of villus atrophy is celiac disease. Tingnan nyo. Normally, you have villi in a normal intestine that increases the surface area for absorption. But with celiac disease, you have inflammatory processes that cause the flattening of your gut villi. So kung nag-flatten yung gut villi mo, you would have decreased absorption of your food. If you have decreased absorption of your food, then you would have more carbohydrates in the stool kasi hindi mo na-absorb. You would have more fat in the stool kasi hindi mo na-absorb. You would have more nitrogen from your proteins, di ba? Kasi wala ka ng surface area for absorption. You have villus atrophy. Your antibodies would also be increased in the stool sample because this is an inflammatory process, your celiac disease. Your brush border cells would be decreased kasi nga, wala ka ng brush border cells. Na-flatten na sila. Your brush border cells are your microvilli in your villi. Kung wala ka ng villi, wala ka ring microvilli, then you would have a decrease in your brush border cells in your stool. Okay? Sige. Next. 1-year-old presents with yellow staining of her sclera. Oh, ano yan? Jaundice. Not very concerned. Blah, blah, blah. Patient's laboratory values are as follows. Tas yung reference values daw are in parentheses yung normal values. Which one is most likely responsible for her jaundice? So yan ha. Di ba? To diagnose the cause of the jaundice, we need to know kung conjugated ba or unconjugated bilirubin yung nag-increase. So check natin. The serum total bilirubin is 1.92 which is increased kasi ang normal is 1.17 lang. The serum direct bilirubin or B2 is 0.29 which is normal. It's within the range of 0 to 0.3. So, by inference, probably B1 or unconjugated bilirubin is increased. Diba? Probably B1 is increased. What causes an increase in your B1? Diba? An increase in your B1 or unconjugated bilirubin can occur kapag sobrang dami mo napoproduce na bilirubin due to hemolytic anemia. Or, syempre, kung may problem ka with the conjugation process, kung may liver problem ka, kung wala yung enzyme na nagko-conjugate. So, enzyme deficiency. Diba? So, kung wala yung enzyme na nagko-conjugate ng bilirubin mo, edi you would always only have unconjugated bilirubin. And you would have an increase in the serum unconjugated bilirubin or B1. So, Check natin yung options. Alin dito sa options yung nag increase ng B1? A. Intermittent bile duct obstruction. No. Sabi natin, this is a post-hepatic event. After na siya ng liver. Di ba? Kung after na siya ng liver, okay, kung nandito yung gallstone, yes, hindi nga makakalabas yung bile, but the bilirubin has already been conjugated. So this would increase your conjugated bilirubin or B2. Next, reduced activity of UDP glucuronil transferase. Probably yes. Di ba? Kasi, kung wala kang, yan yung enzyme na pang-conjugate mo eh. Kung wala ka nito, then you would have an increase in your unconjugated bilirubin or B1. Check natin yung ibang options. Decreased secretion of conjugated bilirubin, hindi nga eh, di ba? B2 nga to eh. Next, genetic susceptibility to gallstone. Again, this is B2. And genetic susceptibility to hemolytic anemia. Oh, pwede rin. B1 din to. Hala, paano yan ngayon? Both B and E would cause an increase in your B1 or unconjugated bilirubin. But which is the correct answer in this question? Check natin yung reticulocytes and yung hematocrit. Kaya nyo, kung meron akong hemolytic anemia, then that should cause a decrease in my hematocrit. Kasi nag-burst, nagla-lyse, nasisira yung mga red blood cells ko. So dapat bumaba yung red blood cell volume ko causing a decrease in hematocrit. Di ba? Di ba? Anemia is a decrease in yung hematocrit. 43%, nasa normal range tayo, 36 to 44. And also, we should have an increase in reticulocytes. Reticulocytes are the immature forms of red blood cells. So in compensation for the hemolytic anemia, dapat nag-increase yung production ko ng bone marrow ko ng reticulocytes. But we are in the normal range. So there's no hemolytic process going on here. The correct answer here is actually letter P, the reduced activity of your UDP glucuronil transferase. Kung wala ka nitong enzyme na to, you would not have conjugated bilirubin or direct bilirubin. You would have an increase in your indirect bilirubin or your unconjugated bilirubin or your B1. Okay? So, by analyzing kung ano yung nag-increase, which is your unconjugated bilirubin, and analyzing the hematocrit and reticulocyte count, which are normal, that ruled out hemolytic anemia, and that confirmed the diagnosis that the problem is in the enzyme that conjugates your bilirubin. That's why you have an increase in your indirect or unconjugated bilirubin. Okay, that's it. That concludes our review session on your GI physiology. I hope you learned a lot. I hope na-review niyo yung fundamental concepts and you trained your ability to answer questions based on what you know, your retrieval practice. And I hope the challenge questions ng USMLE questions also sharpened your clinical thinking, your critical thinking abilities. I really do hope you do well in your shifting exams. I wish you the best. So good luck, pagpalain, and dare to be great. Bye-bye. Thank you.